Thanks for coming out. Well, I wanted to give you an update on how voting is going here in Georgia. To sum it up, Georgia voters are excited and setting records every hour. And this is all during a pandemic, lest we forget. I have pledged to keep all voting options open, safe, and efficient for Georgia voters. We can judge how voters feel about our plans and truly the efforts of the hardworking county election officials and poll workers by the wide adoption of those options. And let me tell you, Georgians are getting out to vote in record numbers. We have open absentee voting and early voting. We have seen 1.6 million voters request absentee ballots. Nearly 500,000 voters have sent those ballots in and have had them accepted by the counties. Early voting started on Monday in only 110 counties because we had Columbus Day on Monday, and many of the counties were closed. We had a record turnout in spite of that of 128,000 voters. The prior record was 90,000. Yesterday we saw 111,000 voters come out to vote across the state. So that puts us at 241,706 votes, that, along with the 400,000 votes that have already been counted with the absentee voting. That means over 700,000 people have had their votes cast and recorded already. And that translates to over 10% of our total 7.6 million voters that have already had their safely cast ballots recorded. I am excited that our voters are so enthusiastic about this election cycle and that they're getting out to vote. I'm also very grateful to see voters buying into our November action plan, which was to keep all options open: absentee, early voting, and then we're expecting big turnout on November 3rd also. Yes, we have seen some lines in some counties. Those with lines are adding equipment to deal with those issues. The overwhelming turnout, again, nearly 250,000 voters in 2 days, has slowed down processing for some voters. We are working with those counties and our vendor to address those holdups. But we can all agree we are in a situation of having good issues. So many Georgians are excited to get out and vote, both in person and in absentee. This also speaks to the potential for high turnout we may see on November 3rd that my office and, more importantly, the counties need to prepare for. We are working with the counties to assure they are prepared for what we anticipate will be a record turnout for Election Day on November 3rd. We are analyzing each and every polling place to make sure they are deploying enough equipment and personnel so the voters won't face the lines that some saw in June. From the analysis, we have assigned additional equipment to the counties that may need it. Further, our office, working with partners that's very diverse, that includes the ACLU, the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, have sent nearly 40,000 names of Georgians who want to act as poll workers to help their neighbors have an easy and safe voting experience. While we're seeing a lot of success so far, and the counties must be consistently aware of the issues that are still going on in a pandemic, I am thankful for those doing the work of working the elections during this time. We're also very grateful for businesses like Georgia Voting Works has partnered and brought together Cox, who's provided drop boxes, Anheuser-Busch, who supplied hand sanitizer, 2,500 gallons, and Home Depot, which has been providing plexiglass shields. And that's just tremendous for our Georgia corporations that are helping us having safe elections during this pandemic. I am also grateful for our staff and the counties that have moved nimbly in these trying times to introduce technology to help voters. Together, we will have a successful election, keeping all of our voting options accessible in all parts of Georgia, regardless of zip code. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, if we could do so, and there's a mic back there, I believe. Is there a location?
No, it's not.
Okay. First one.
Yeah, the bandwidth issue is slowing down check-in. When and how will that be fixed?
Say that again about bandwidth.
The bandwidth issue that's slowing down check-in. When and how will that be fixed?
We're working on that today. We'll continue to revisit that. It's not just for what we have now, but also be prepared. We expect really week 2, week 3, the numbers to increase. We want to make sure that we add additional capacity to handle what we're projecting and also being ready for Tuesday, November 3rd. But we're working on that currently. We talked to the CEO. I did talk to the CEO yesterday. So we're working on that. I don't want to say 24/7, but we are working on that. We were up till last night, to midnight.
Yeah, that goes to the issue you were talking about. If we're having that issue in early voting, we expect even more people on November 3rd.
Right.
And wouldn't want that to be the pressure.
Yeah, and we also have the issue of all the processing all the absentee ballots and also updating the voter rolls, which are their counties are still inputting all that information. So it's just a lot of people are running down that same road right now. Yes, sir.
Secretary of State, can you talk a little bit about, we've had some folks saying if there's a pandemic, people would exhibit symptoms of COVID-19 and they're at a precinct, what happens if poll workers turn someone away? What happens in a situation like that? Why exactly are they determining the checks?
Yeah, we are doing checks. If someone is turned away, it's really to make sure it's safe and secure. We'd like to have them come back, or we'll figure out how we can get them to really capture their ballot. You know, what is the best process? We don't want to turn away a voter, but obviously we've had 2 election officials come down with COVID during this time period already. So that's why, even though we are getting about with our business, many of you still wearing masks. So COVID is still out there, and it's something we really have to be mindful of.
Secretary, there are reports of poll pad issues in some counties. Is that the bandwidth issue? And can you describe what the issue is and what's causing it?
Well, with the poll pads, I know that in Fulton County, that was really, it was error, and they really addressed that quickly. That was actually the poll workers there. And in some places, it is actually just capacity. The information flowing back and forth. Also, it takes additional capacity when people show up that ask for an absentee ballot, and then all of a sudden you have to contact back to the county to take them out.
Voting machines have gotten good reviews when they've been working successfully. I think all 159 counties have the resources to keep the machines running at an optimum level.
We've had a real strong push to make sure we have enough tech workers in place. Some people, I read in the newspaper, it said that they called it clunky. But at the end of the day, what voters wanted is they wanted a verifiable paper ballot trail. And so for 18 years, we had the electronic machines, and we've kept that part of the technology, but now we have a verifiable paper ballot, but it does take additional time to print that ballot out. And that's is going to give voters confidence so that they can actually look at their votes before they've cast it. Mr. Mark.
We hear about these bandwidth issues. I want to understand what's happening and why didn't you see this coming and why isn't it fixed already? It seems like the kind of thing that should have been addressed a long time ago, and that's where the bottleneck is at the check-in. How can we fix this, and what's going on?
Well, our vendor's been working on that along with our staff to make sure we're looking at some other optimizations also, and we'll have that probably done by the end of this week.
So what is the problem exactly, and why?
Just really capacity. If you look at the amount of information that's just flowing, it's like everyone jumping on 285 in the morning, and sometimes you have to stagger out the rush hour. We had people show up, as you saw on Monday. Everyone, if you look spaced out over the 12-hour day, 128,000 people is quite manageable. Whenever someone shows up at 7 o'clock, it's just a high capacity.
Secretary McIntyre, you mentioned that you were working to get some counties to put more machines online. Can you talk about specific counties where you're looking on that?
Well, wherever we're seeing issues, but also last night I know that some people were talking about one county, and then someone posted, well, it only took me 10 minutes at this polling precinct. And so what we're really going to encourage people is look at how long it's taking at that precinct versus some other precincts. I know that at the State Farm Arena, for example, the lines have been 10 to 20 minutes long tops. In other parts of Fulton County, they just don't have as many machines in that area because the building only holds so many machines, so it has taken longer. And so that's the thing to take a look at is can you really get the best or the shortest line. And so we're looking at that. The counties, specific counties, I know Gwinnett County is going to be adding a couple more pieces of equipment at their election headquarters, so they're addressing that. So it's really all 159 counties are looking at the process. Are there any things that they can do? Do they have the space to add additional equipment? Yes, sir.
Secretary of State, real quick, in Augusta, Savannah, and Columbus, some of the boards of registrars are reporting delays because of the election net system. And then you sort of addressed that a little bit earlier. What type of confidence do you want to give to resolve an issue in the days ahead and the voting number?
Well, yeah, we're working on that right now, obviously, and that's what I just talked to Mark Nisi about, that we're working on that, having a resolution before the end of the week.
Is it Dominion who's in charge of that system?
No, it's another vendor.
Another vendor. What's the name of that vendor?
I'll get that for you.
The long lines seen in some places is some form of voter speculation. I'm saying some form of voter suppression, which is speculation in a lot of cases. But how do you respond to those arguments or claims?
Well, some of the longest lines, for example, we saw in Fulton County so far that I've heard of actually have been in North Fulton County. And so that's not, I would say that's probably a 50-50. It's not really any demographic group, obviously. And then down at State Farm, you know, it's 10-15 minutes. Our implementation director, Gabriel Sterling, voted there Monday, I believe it was, and I think it took him 17 minutes. So it's just something that some precincts are more favored by voters, and they just have longer lines. So everyone will have the opportunity to vote. We're just expecting a record turnout. You have a pandemic, and that's the other thing that we tend to forget is I think all of you have masks on right now, and so if you look at those lines, they look like they're long, but everyone is spaced 6 feet out on center, and that just makes your lines look a whole lot longer. It also takes longer to actually vote through the process because the machines have to be cleaned down, wiped, and so it's just it's a slower, more cumbersome process just due to the pandemic.
Secretary Rabbitsburger, 500,000 people have voted by mail so far. There's still 1 million ballots outstanding. Is that number good for you, or do you want more people to be voting by mail instead of waiting in these lines early?
What I would really encourage the 1.6 million people that have requested an absentee ballot, we would really be grateful if all 1.6 million of those ballots actually came in and people didn't then show up to vote in person, because that also takes the pressure off of the polling location, and really then people that do want to show up or need to show up because maybe an underlying health condition or some disability that they have to vote in person. But that really will help the counties all the way around, and so we're hopeful that's what we'll end up with is, if not 1.6, 1,550,000 of those voters show up, and we don't end up with people showing up in person.
For counties like Cobb and Gwinnett, do you think 9 to 10 early voting sites are enough, are sufficient?
Well, those are all county decisions, and we are under emergency rules, and they can add additional polling locations if they feel that they need that. And we would encourage everyone to do that. Thank you very much for coming today.